Welcome back, everyone, to another segment of The MCR. Mac and me, my name's TJ. Just two regular old men from the Great Lakes state of Michigan who uses this platform as a means to vent and perhaps even pontificate on various topics here. Topic today will be judicial tyranny. And I got to tell you, with I was going to go down and review what all happened last week, and the list would be too long and lengthy to decipher and even in any way attempt to discuss, other than you got out of control judges. And it started with this. Well, I didn't start, but where it really went to the next level was this Boasberg guy telling those two planes, and I guess there was a third one too, that somehow's in question, but these planes that flew the illegals down slightly ignored. Thoughts so far, Mac?
Well, he should be ignored because that judge has got no authority to make that ruling. And it's going to not be very long before we're right back where we were when we had our first revolution. No redress for our grievances, because these judges, if they're usurping the power of the other two branches of government with no authority to do so, and then you've got a complicit ass clown in John Roberts going along with them, basically saying, well, when we have disagreements, that's what the appellate court is for. This isn't about a disagreement. This is about just flat out misconduct. And I'd like to know what his answer to that is.
Well, you mentioned John Roberts, so we'll jump ahead here in my notes. Yeah, Trump comes out, against this Boasberg judge, and basically there's talks of impeaching this guy. Roberts jumps into the fray and tries to take Trump to task. Then Trump says to Roberts, "Hey, you need to get your act together." And now, I'm compelled to mention the rhino apologist extraordinaire on the air, Hugh Hewitt, who, thank goodness, has been moved to the afternoons, so I don't have to listen to him in the morning as I go to work. But Hugh Hewitt, rhino apologist extraordinaire, takes Trump to task. A great one, Mark Levin, seeing all this play out, jumps into the fray and says, "Hey, Hugh, you're wrong." And,
well, admittedly, I haven't heard what Hugh Hewitt has said. I only know what you've told me, and I trust you to be accurate. But I'd like to know, what is his remedy? Just go through the appellate process for everything? Does he not realize, or maybe he's just he's just complicit with it, or he's fine with it? Let these low-level judges, and they're federal judges, but they're low-level district court judges, usurp the power of the other two branches of government. I mean, what if they come up with a ruling that says Trump must resign from office, or he must be removed from office? So he's not going to be president until what? Until we go through the appeals process? Go take care of your mom, Hugh.
Well, he's always, I don't know if this is his just way of erring to the side of caution, but he always seems to side with the establishment,
Well, he's part of it. That's why.
Yeah, and I was just really glad that Mark Levin, if Hugh's gonna take Trump to task, I'm glad Mark Levin took Hugh to task by name.
Right.
So bravo, Mark Levin.
Well, he's a lawyer. He graduated from the University of Michigan, and he's extremely impressed with himself.
There's one judge. Gosh, I'm gonna have trouble finding in my notes here, but Pete Hegseth, because there was one judge who was telling the military they could not. They had to let trans in to serve.
No authority to rule that. That power lies within the executive branch, not in the judicial branch.
And Pete Hegseth said, perhaps he's addressing the judge now. Perhaps you want to come down here and run a course on how to tactically assault a fortified position or something. perhaps you need to come down here and conduct some weapons training. If since you want to step into the fray here of the do's and don'ts and the whatever of the military. So Pete Hegseth is indirectly telling the judge to get bent. But we mentioned Chief Justice Roberts. Do you know it's been discovered that he's a part of a gaggle. There's an organization, some kind of private organization, American In or Ins of the Court, In of the Court, and it's got all sorts of elitist left-wing judges as members. Boasberg's in it. Beryl Howell, Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Well,
and
that's fine company right
Meta.
there.
And this is. I get the impression that this is an invite-only organization of which Justice Roberts is a member of.
Well, he needs to be. He needs to be the first judge impeached, perhaps.
I'll close with this. DeSantis has a possible remedy, and I say possible because the odds of this happening, admittedly, are slim. But Governor DeSantis, who's basically on board with Trump and his agenda, okay, he says, you know what? Just strip these judges of their authority. Okay, you're a judge. Go sit over there and be a judge, but they have no one to judge or that strip them of their jurisdiction is what he says in that. Okay, you're a judge, but who are you going to adjudicate for?
Well, here's the thing. And here's the problem with that is that then they do it to, and I hate to use this expression, our judges.
Yeah.
And I've said this in previous videos. It's a damn shame that we've got our judges and they've got their judges.
Yes.
Because that's not how it's supposed to work.
It will turn in for
tit for tat.
That's right. I couldn't remember the exact wording, and I feared your correction.
Here, they're never going to remove these corrupt judges because and any judge that does it's blatantly just thumbs its nose at the judiciary and the other two branches of government.
Well, here's the thing. What I find a little comical in all of this, and I find it comical because how else can you really view it? But the Trump administration seems to be taking their time in abiding with the court, and that is infuriating Boasberg. He's accusing them of not being Johnny on the spot with his dictates.
Well, I mean, this guy thinks he's King Solomon, for God's sake.
Oh, he sure does. He sure does, man. That's why I said I find it funny. The word was he was yelling at some of the DOJ members. As far as because he'd rule something and then say, oh, okay, and then take their time, and then he'd become further infuriated,
Well, if it were up to me, what I would do is I would, if I were Mike Johnson, I'd start articles of impeachment against these judges, and you're not going to get them removed because the Democrats are going to protect them. You need a supermajority of 67 votes in the Senate. You're never going to get that. But what you could do is drag them out there into the Senate and let Senator Kennedy and those Rand Paul and those have a shot at these guys and gals and make them explain themselves in front of the American people.
As one commentator said, this one commentator I heard, like you said, they're not, they're not going to be removed, but he goes, they need to be put through the ringer, was his words. They need to be.
It's a level. It's at least
I'll tell you who might have said that was, oh gosh, he's on 9-10, 9-12, and Glenn Beck. I think it was Glenn Beck that said something effective. They need to be put through the ringer. I think it was Glenn Beck. I listen to so many out there, I get them confused sometimes. But put them through the ringer. And here's the thing: keep this issue alive so that this could be almost like a springboard issue into the midterms. Granted, granted, it's not. You can put it on the list of reasons why we just need more Republicans and less Democrats. Just as an overall environment, a political environment. Just
well, the
keep this
founders
issue
put
alive.
separation of powers in the Constitution for a reason, and this is why. So we don't have judicial tyranny or legislative tyranny or executive branch tyranny.
And I heard one guy say, "Hey, if the president can be impeached, what makes them so special?"
They can be impeached, and there have been judges who have been impeached.
And then one individual arguing for the judge was saying, "Well, there needs to be some kind of restrictions on the president." And the retort was, "There is impeachment."
And the Constitution.
Yeah, and you know what? They've already impeached him for BS reasons already in his first term. So,
right.
Whatever. Anyways, I really, what? This is going to be a heck of a ride, whatever happens.
It needs to get straightened out.
And you know who this, as far as the straightening out, Chief Justice Roberts. It's on you now, guy. It's on you to get this straightened out. Otherwise, it's only going to get worse.
I would like Pam Bondi and/or Kash Patel to do a deep dive into who this guy is connected to. I mean, they wanted to fine-tooth comb Clarence Thomas, so let's do that to John Roberts.
Yeah. Oh, and I read another article, and I can't remember where I saw it. Accusations of possible blackmail are arising again.
Well, I've seen alleged photos, and I'll say they're alleged because you can make a photo of anything now, of John Roberts on Epstein Island.
Well, and this goes back to the late great Rush Limbaugh when Justice Roberts caved on Obamacare,
rewrote the law basically.
Yeah, and Rush Limbaugh went, God bless his soul, but Rush Limbaugh said back then, and he theorized it because at that time, this is something you may never prove, but he theorized he goes, they got something on him. They got something on him.
I've always felt that with this guy.
And so now here we go again with, they still got, whatever they got on him, they're still using. I wish the guy would just resign if there's any truth to it.
Well, resignations require integrity.
Exactly. Yeah. No, touche to that point. Okay. Well, we'll continue to vent. So we might as well just call this one a wrap. And for those watching us on Rumble, thank you very much. We're really trying to grow on Rumble. And we'll catch you in the next segment. As always, be safe, watch your six, and don't tread on me.